your attention, please. It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in
10. You have a dream? 9. And if you have a goal? 8. I want you to go after it. 7. It doesn't matter your age. 6. And it doesn't matter your race. 5. You can make it. 4. I promise. 3. So go. 2. Be defiant. 1. And live your dream. Unafraid. Defy all odds. I am defiant. There is nothing that can hold back my greatness.
I am defiant.
And the same goes for you. Welcome to the Defiant Ones Team Podcast, hosted by Kindify. The show starts now. Hey guys, I hope that you all are doing amazing today. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. This is the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast. I am a little thrown off, but also kind of, I'm pleased because I'm glowing right now. You guys see it? I'm luminescent. Guys, if you are tuning in with us right now, you are either tuning in live on Facebook or YouTube at Defiant Ones Teen Magazine, or you are listening to us on all podcast platforms. That's Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everything like that live right now through the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast. And we are so happy to have you. If you are new here, I want to let you guys know a little bit about us. So we are the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast, stemmed from the Defiant Ones Teen Magazine, which is, if it will show in the light, is a magazine for teens by teens created by me and my brother a year ago that talks about the latest fashion, entertainment, news, sports, trends, and everything like that other magazines do. But what makes us different and what makes us defiant is the fact that we are a magazine for teens by teens. We are sharing information coming directly from the youth, talking about things that schools aren't teaching us, like financial literacy, becoming a business owner, things to do after high school, mental and physical health and wellness, sex education, sex trafficking, bullying, cyberbullying, all these important topics. I mean, literally, we are going after it, and we are sharing the stories of incredible teens and young adults who are defying the odds, who are going after their lives, and who are inspiring all of us to do the same. And I'm so excited because we have somebody here today who truly is a great example of that. And I think that she'll have a lot of information for us to feed and share off of and to learn and grow and thrive. And I'm so excited to introduce the amazing networking expert, author, and speaker, Miss Kelly Hoey. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
I wish I'd had everything you have when I was, your age, or that's what I was thinking about that. And I thinking about how you have so many dreams and ideas in your teens, and you just want people to give you a platform and a voice to share them. You don't want them to, rain on your parade. So I am just thrilled to be here.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. So before we get started, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I live in New York City. I am a Canadian, though New York City has been home since 1998. Wow. I started my career as an attorney, and we can dive into that. That was, there was no great ambition. I was expected to go and get an advanced degree, and that's what I did. I practiced law in Toronto, moved to New York City, continued to practice law, muddled around in that, moved into management, and then through networks and relationships, I became the global president of a business network for women. I then, co-founded a startup accelerator, Became the interim CMO for an emerging tech company. I don't know how to create an Excel spreadsheet. Let me just confess that. And then finally, I sort of said, hey, what's the thread for all these things that have changed my career, changed what I focused on in terms of what I was practicing in law, and it's networks and relationships.
Good. That's amazing. So what's it like in New York?
You know, every time this city drives you crazy, you look up and there's the Chrysler Building, or there's something sort of iconic New York, and you pinch yourself and you remind yourself you live in New York City.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's amazing. New York is the city of dreams, the city of builders, of people who really are going after their lives. I've only been once, and I think I was like 7 years old. I'll tell you one thing: it was freezing, but I know it's starting to get a little bit warmer now. Is it a little bit warmer, or is it still cold?
Oh, it's a little bit warmer. Yeah, New York is it's its own place. I mean, it's there's days when it's cold and you curse the city, and then it's too hot and humid, and you curse this city, and then you go somewhere else and you're just so damn happy when you come back. So
I think the thing I'd be most excited to see when I come back up there is all the superheroes that apparently are live down in New York.
oh yeah. No, there was this book on walking that I read, and I'm pausing. I believe the author is Swedish.
Mhm.
Anyway, he believes it because you mentioned about health and wellness and things you cover in the Defiant Ones magazine, and this guy walks everywhere, and he believes in sort of that the health and wellness from walking.
Yeah.
But one of the walks he did, he and a buddy slipped into the New York City sewage system, because I guess there's parts like I think he was down in like the West Village or something, and supposedly there's parts of those that you can walk in, but then it does get smaller.
Yeah.
And like literally walked from the West Village to like Coney Island, like through the sewage system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a story. His grandkids are gonna love that.
I was like, what? Like, I'm okay. Even if you knew that was something to do, would you do it?
Mm-hmm. That sounds definitely interesting. Kind of, sounds like you got to take a shower, but
oh yeah. There's parts where you had to crawl through and all the rest of it. Oh no, thank you.
Mm-mm.
Anyway,
yeah, let's get right into the fun. So you said that you started networking, if I understand, when you moved into New York. So just to be specific, how long have you been in the networking field, and how were you introduced into it?
so when I really started to realize I looked at networking differently was when I was in a management role, and one of my bosses said to me, he said, you need to tell people what you do, because you do this thing networking differently. And that was probably around 2006. And I told him he was a total idiot, and it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. Like, seriously, it's lucky I wasn't fired. We had a great relationship. Love you, Tim. But he said, you need to tell people. And I'm like, you're an idiot. No. And then it was, really it was in 2016, because my book was published. Book was published in 2017. But I did realize I'd had roles where I had been asked to, I would say, use my networking powers. It was when I was still in management, building out a women's initiative, building an alumni program. How I changed jobs was through networks. And then when I was tapped to be the president of the Global Business Network, it was because the founder of that network called me up. This was not like a job that was listed on, Craigslist or, published somewhere. She called me because I was a member of this business network. And she called me and she said, you're asking a lot of really interesting questions. Who are you? What do you do? And at the end of an hour-long phone call, she offered me a job that didn't previously exist. She said to me, would you come and be the president? And give me your advice and, bring all that talent and stuff you have. Would you bring it over here? So that's what kind of really got me to spin out of that kind of traditional mindset around my career and what it could do. But there was pieces, and I share it in my book, pieces of networking throughout my career that almost like building, building with like a brick wall, like
Yeah.
one after another, and then like you stand back and you're like, oh, that's how that all happened.
Yeah. So it was a process.
Oh yeah, always a process.
Well, it's definitely. But it sounds like you've had a great amount of experience, and to be known as the president, that is a huge responsibility, one, but also a really big honor. I mean, you have to be really, really good at it. And so, before we get just into what it is and how it works and everything like that, what would you say is the biggest mistake that people make when networking all time?
I think the very biggest mistake is how we think about what networking is. I think another big mistake is who we value in our network. But the number one networking mistake is, I think, the failure to follow up. And by that, I mean, like, say a mentor gives you some advice, right? They say, here, let me, someone makes an introduction for you. A mentor gives you some advice. Someone gives you an informational interview about a career or something. And you send a thank you note. You're like, hey, thank you, right? Okay, that's just courtesy.
Yeah.
The follow-up after that, to let a mentor know what you did with the advice. If someone made an introduction, to let them know whether or not you got an interview. If someone provided you with a reference letter for a job, right? Did you tell them that you got the job? Like that, following up and like closing the circle, following through, saying, hey, mentor, you gave me this great advice and this is how I've applied it. Or remember 3 weeks ago, you wrote that reference letter. I've now landed the job. That is like the biggest mistake. And here's why it's a mistake. And it's not just a mistake because no one does it. It's a mistake because it turns someone who may just think well of you, like, hey, I'm happy you were a nice intern last summer. I'll write you a reference, right? Now you turn them into a fan. Now you turn them into someone who's really got your back. Now you've got someone who's thinking about your opportunities. Now you've got someone who, if you email them in the future, are going to be like hot on it, right? Now you're going to have someone who's going to be thinking of you proactively, who says, oh, how's that internship going? Because I heard about another one you might be interested in. That's why the follow-up is like critical.
Okay. So it's, when you say that, it almost reminds me of a follow-up after a follow-up. When, like, say after we speak, I'll tell you, thank you so much. And you're saying after that, you keep the communication going. Right.
Because the one that's like you emailing me and me emailing you saying, thank you very much, right? That's just common courtesy. Right? Mm-hmm. You've done this for me, inviting me on your podcast, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I can pretend at age 55 I'm a teenager, and I love it. And you can say, well, thank you, Kelly. This author came on my podcast. This is all great. But what after that, right? Like, yeah. That's after this. This is when any kind of communications back and forth turns into something magical.
Yeah, that's when the conversation, when the relationship actually starts to build.
Right. It moves from one and done into like something possible.
Yeah. And you know what? That's going to take me right to the question, what is networking?
Networking. Okay, for me, networking is every single human interaction. So you know what I think about when I think about networking? Because we think about networking as transactional. We think about it as, oh, I need a job, I have to go and network. We think about networking and, we think we have to go and talk to strangers. But networking at its core is about building up trust. And building up trust comes from repeated interactions with people. So the things you do every day are more important than the things you do once. So how do you show up for your colleagues, your friends, your coworkers? Maybe you got a part-time job. Are you the person that's helpful to everybody else, or you're like, that's not my job, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you that kind of person? Are you like, what's on your email signature line? Think about the email you sent me. You advance. I'm going to have a big sneeze here, and that's going to ruin everything on this podcast. Okay, maybe not. All right. Love it when you do things live and you've got video and you can like see, that's what you miss, podcast listeners, by not watching this live right now, that I might have had a big sneeze. So like, think about like your email to me. You were, here's the information on where I need to be. And by the way, if there's problems with the Wi-Fi, here's how you can reach me. That I hadn't met you yet, but it says a lot about your character. And your diligence and your focus. And so this is where I also sort of say, right, what's on your email signature line? What's on your social media profiles? How are you displaying who you are? How are you networking who you are to the world? So those little interactions matter so much more. So that's why I'm like, networking's every single human interaction, and think of every chance you have to connect with someone else as a chance to further, start, or improve a relationship.
Okay. And I want you to kind of help me build this question, because I have to find a way to ask it, but it's coming to my mind when you say that. The people who, if networking is communication, the people who have a problem with communicating, who are internal, how do you think that they can come across networking in a different kind of way? Is it strictly through social media?
Or are you thinking people who are introverted?
Yes.
You knew you're asking my favorite question, don't you? Okay, so how much time do we have? I want to talk to you about one of the case studies in my book.
We are completely fine on time.
Okay, so for those reading along, page 75. Okay, one of my favorite case studies is a guy by the name of Joe Styler. Joe is in the aftermarkets group at GoDaddy. Joe is an introvert. He, like many people I interviewed in my book, are introverts. So don't confuse the ability to build great networks and relationships and strong relationships around your career. Don't equate that with being the life of the party. Two separate things. So Joe, let me tell you some of the things Joe has done to move his career at GoDaddy from an entry-level job. Hey, thanks for calling GoDaddy. It's Joe. How can I help you? Right? Like entry level, no skills required. Joe studied divinity, and now he's at GoDaddy. Like, figure that one out, right? So Joe started an entry level job. He's now in a coveted position at GoDaddy. Aftermarkets is where you buy URLs that aren't otherwise available for sale. So I like to jokingly say he's gone from the receptionist to Goldman Sachs to the the lead trader. Like, he's just whew. Here's what Joe did. First of all, Joe knows he has control over how he shows up for work every day. How does he engage with and treat those people he works with? How does he lead and manage and use his influence that way to help other people in their careers? So there's that. Joe's very aware of, all right, what is the skill set I bring to the table? And what's the skill set I need to learn to get that next job? He's not waiting for someone to tell him. He is not like, oh, well, I'll take that course if, someone else pays for it. Joe's like, all right, what are the other jobs and roles around here? What do I need to do? When Joe realized he needed to improve his sales skills, he looked around GoDaddy to figure out who was the best salesperson. And then what Joe did, he didn't call this person and say, hey, can I pick your brain over coffee? I hear you're the best salesperson. He contacted that person and said, would it bother you? Could I come and watch you do your job and then ask you some questions? Because if you ask someone what makes a good salesperson, what are they going to do? They're going to give you a standard answer. But if you watch someone do their job, you can say to them, can you tell me why you did it that way with that person? Why with this different call did you do this? You can actually observe and learn and understand the nuances versus, just getting a sort of a pat answer.
Yeah.
When Joe realized he wanted to move into aftermarkets, what he did was he said, right, what's the skill set that's required? And he started informing himself on a job well before he got it. He made sure that he was aware of the industry trends. He went to industry conferences. He was building relationships with the people in that department, because he also understood it was a really close-knit department, and the only way to get in it was if someone said, hey, we got an opening, get over here, right? And so he did all of these things. So some of this, when I think about how you network effectively, if someone had just said to Joe, just get out there and network, I think he would have been paralyzed in terms of moving ahead. Instead, he built relationships by managing and mentoring, having respect for his colleagues. He built a career by focusing on what he had control of, his own knowledge, right, and his own desire. When he had to step into, the room full of strangers networking, he clearly understood why he needed to do that. It wasn't couched in, oh, I need to get out and network. It was, this is an industry conference. These are the people who will be my peers in the industry. I need to know them. I need to know what they're thinking. I'm going to Vegas for a big conference. That's how it worked. And Joe and I met, so when I was writing my book. So even if you're in sales, okay, Joe focuses on relationships. So he was in the aftermarket group when I met him. And I met him because my book had a different title, and I needed to buy or think about buying the URL for that other book title. And what do you think the first question was that Joe asked me when we met on the phone? Think, what do you think? Here you are, I'm someone who wants to buy a URL. What do you think Joe asked me?
What do you want to call it?
Oh yeah, like, how much do you want to spend? Hey Joe, this is the URL I want to buy. His first question to me was, what's it for? And I told him, and that's how I learned about his career story. And that's why he's in the book. He was not part of my pitch to my publisher. So even if you're in a sales role, to say to someone, what's this for? Or what are you doing? Having a conversation more than how much do you want to spend? It can lead to, well, who knows? Every time someone has that conversation, it might not lead to them being in a book, but
Yeah, but he's taking interest. It honestly reminds me of exactly that, a sales pitch. And when you say that, it kind of reminds me of that example from, what's it called? I'm a little too young for this movie. What's it? The Wall Street.
Oh, the Wolf of Wall Street, or
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
When he's like, sell me this pin. And the secret behind it is selling the emotion, is selling the story behind it, being able to take that pin and create a story, be able to sign a letter off to your family that's off in the military, doing all these things. It's selling the parts behind it. And that reminds me of the story you just said about Joe. That's really neat.
Yeah. So it's sort of one of those things to know that here was someone who was entered an industry, and the reason he took a job at GoDaddy and sought a job originally at GoDaddy was he and his wife had moved for her job. And so he was like, I need a job. It wasn't like, oh, gee, I want to move to, Arizona and work. Well, maybe he did want to work for GoDaddy, but that wasn't like the lead motivation. So, yeah. I think it's also one of those things, how you show up. Let me tell you another story. It's not in the book, but the person is in the book. And Sandy Cross is the head of diversity at the PGA of America. She started at the PGA in a temp role. She was hired to cover somebody else's maternity leave for 3 months. So this notion, when you think about networking as how, once you get in the door, how you show up, how you engage, how you take interest in other people, how you contribute, can lead to amazing things. So yeah, Sandy was there as a, covering someone's maternity leave, a temp role. You could think of it yourself. You have someone has an internship, or someone's like, hey, we'll give you a 3-month learning experience. What is it? What happens with it? Well, you could say, oh, it's just temporary, and you can show up with a temporary attitude. Or you can go in and say, I want to know who these people are that are around here, and I want to know why they love their jobs, and I want to know and watch and observe and see how I can help them, and I'm going to mentor them as much as they're mentoring me. And the next thing you know, someone can't get rid of you because they love you so much, and you've become critical to the organization.
Yeah. Taking the interest, getting to know the people a part of it. It's pretty neat just to be able to take this simple concept and truly break it down for how it is.
Yeah.
But you do this in a variety of different ways. And we've covered your book a little bit, but can you tell us just a bit more, or an overall description of your book, Build Your Dream Network?
I will. I'm saying The World According to Kelly, and it's a case study driven book. So it's not just my career story, and it really breaks down how I think about networking and gives other people's career stories in Q&A format, so that you can say, oh, look, here's how someone moved, like Joe moved up the corporate ladder. Here's how someone has built get their primary marketing for their business because of how they use social media. This is how somebody else landed a job, through, I'm saying, the smart tactics of cold emailing when they've really looked and they don't have someone in their network. So that's all those. So from crowdfunding to landing a job to moving up the corporate ladder to building businesses, changing careers. There's all sorts of case studies. There's lots of do's and don'ts. And, there's, as someone said, they like the cartoons in my book. There's lots of illustrations.
Well, to me, it sounds like it's something that's perfect, definitely for any business owner, definitely for almost, I would say, anyone, as you say, that everyone is a networker in everyday life with everyone they come in contact and interact with. What would you say is different, or what would be the difference with your book now versus if you'd written it 10 years ago?
You know what? It almost feels like 10 years ago that I wrote it. That's how long the last year has been. There's not, social media is more robust. And robust in the sense of more acceptance of digital and social tools. What I'm really finding, though, is in the past year, people are really understanding that you can build digital first relationships that are as equal and meaningful and significant in your life as the person you went to elementary or middle school with, or grew up in the neighborhood with. So that, for a lot of people, particularly my generation and older, has been sort of like, whoa, what do you mean you met that person online? But the successful networkers, I really believe this going forward, are going to be people who are amphibious. And by that I mean they can take in real life, in person relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and they can maintain them using digital tools. And then they can take digital first relationships, people they've met on Instagram or TikTok or Clubhouse or Twitter or wherever, and they turn them into the friends, the fans, the real relationships.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Guy by the name of Kid Chan. He is a celebrity photographer out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He reviewed my book on Instagram. We started a conversation on Instagram, led to direct messages on Instagram, and he's been like sort of my Instagram friend, and we'll tag each other every once in a while. Clubhouse comes along. And kids like, can you come on Clubhouse with me? We're going to do this room. I really want you to be there and talk about networking. So we talked for the first time this year after, I say messaging back and forth for, since 2017 when he reviewed my book. And now, because of voice, because of Clubhouse, our relationship in terms of the conversations, in terms of introductions, in terms of helping each other, is at a completely different level.
Yeah.
But some people would think that's like really weird. What do you mean? Someone wrote a post on Instagram and now you're like buddies? But that's been since 2017. Like, that's 5 years of messaging and liking things, and you get to know people by what they're posting and how you're engaging. So that's, a long answer to what do I think is different. We just have more options to meet more people.
Yeah. Okay. And if I can give a little bit of my opinion in that,
Oh,
Miss
yeah.
Kelly, I'm trying to instill being a business owner so young. There's two things that comes to mind when I hear something like that. First of all, kind of these online relationships. I'm trying to understand if they're as genuine networking wise as they would be in a real situation. This whole entire COVID situation, it's making people be forced to conversate with each other through digital networks. But I don't know if it would be the same as if it were in person. That's just a thought. But
Yeah.
my question or concern is, what would be the difference between taking something as personal as you networking with someone you enjoy talking to, as if you were friends, as you said, when you grew up in school or talking in real life? What would be the difference between a business and a personal style of networking?
Yeah, I think what you're hitting on is there's relationships that I want to say they stall at acquaintance in the sense that we don't need to know everything about them.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do need to know, and you think about in those business relationships where maybe you don't have the time, or maybe you see an opportunity, what you really need to think about in terms of like making that business pitch or whatever else is not just like a blanket generic one. Like, oh, gee, Kelly, you have a website. I've got a way to get you better SEO. Well, I may already have great SEO. So what, you know what I mean? Rather than someone saying, Kelly, I've done some analytics on your website. I noticed X, Y, Z, and here's what would improve this, because your expertise is in a category, networking, that can get confused with computer networking, computer networks, and you're just getting lost. And I've got some idea, like, there's the difference. And so I think in terms of that business networking, sometimes people are sort of tossing out generic solutions as opposed to a specific, in terms of instead understanding, what someone's real industry is, what their real problem is, and why you are the one who's the solution. Mm-hmm. But I also think, one thing people make a lot of mistakes on is they don't engage their personal network with their business network. And we really do live in a different era. Like, look at you. You have your own business. At my age, having your own business at your age would have been like, oh, that's nice. You have a newspaper, you have a newspaper route, or you have a lemonade stand. Right? It wasn't like the idea of, at my age, like my upbringing of starting my own business, or maybe you painted houses and they're like college pro painters, like, there's those kinds of things. But starting your own business at that age, people would be like, no, like, that's sweet. Off you go. Like, that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now, someone like me, I've already reported, like, my boss, when I was the interim CMO of a startup, was 25 years younger. Right? So the world is turned on its head. For some people, the networking you need to do is be nice to your babysitter, because they might be the one who's got the next hot tech startup, and you want to go and work for them, and get out of your corporate job. So you've got to think about these things. But if you meet someone new and you're thinking, wow, I'd really like to get their business, understand their business, understand their real pain point, and build your networking. Like, if you're going to build your networking almost by making a pitch to them, you want them to realize that you understand what their business and stuff is, so that the networking impression that you make is initially a strong one, not like, oh, great, here's another kid pitching me, they know my thing and they don't. So,
yeah. Okay. That's a great answer. Thank you. So, and this is something that that truly is a all Miss Kelly answer. What would be the most important thing that you think you've learned so far in your career?
oh, that it's never too late to start again or start over or reinvent yourself. I think sometimes we give up on our dreams because someone's told us they were unrealistic, and then we're thinking we're embarrassed if we, decide to pursue them. Oh, I can't do that now, I'm too old. Or you think to yourself, oh, I'm too old to go back to school or whatever. I mean, life is long for most of us, touch wood, we hope so. And there's no reason that you should have to follow somebody else's career path for you. And there may be times where you need to shelf a dream for a little while because you got bills to pay, or the time's not right. But don't give up on those things.
Yeah. Everyone has their story. Everyone's going to have their time. It's just about when it's right for you.
Right. Yeah. Create choices and opportunities for yourself, but don't give up on those things.
Yeah. So what does your future hold in the Build Your Dream Network? You have any upcoming projects or events?
Doing research on a new book. So I gotta brace myself for that experience again. I don't know. It's like when we've already run that marathon, and what you're setting yourself up for.
Yeah.
So there is that. I do a regular Build Your Dream Network virtual water cooler and talk to people. So maybe I'll twist your arm to come on my StreamYard one of these days and talk about being a business owner and entrepreneur and how you fit that in with school and everything else. So yeah, but big thing is a new book, and the new book is focusing on the networking. I want to say the networking and the networks, the secret sauce of success, of successful women, because there is research that shows that successful women build their networks differently and leverage them differently.
Well, I cannot personally wait to read and hear all about that, because I know that I for sure have absolutely loved everything you've said, and we'll start to close out here a little bit. But
this is probably the first of many conversations, I think.
No, for sure.
I think I'm like a rash. You're stuck with me now. I'm just going to flare up every once in a while.
For sure. I'm absolutely loving everything you're saying and the entire aura I'm getting off of you. But how can people find, contact, and book you, as well as support your Build Your Dream?
You know what? The best place is to head to my website, which is jkellyhoey.co, and that's jkellyhoey.co, and my social handles, my email, all the stuff's there.
Fantastic. And guys, if you get a chance, there are also, and I will say that just to do some research beforehand, I was on YouTube and Facebook looking at all these different clips and speeches of you speaking about your passion in your career. I will say that you definitely have a very insightful mindset. You are truly wise. beyond your I'm not gonna say that amount of years.
I've already said how old I am. I already said how old I am. You know, I really felt passionate about coming and sharing with you and your community, because when I was your age, my view of what I could be was very limited. And that was limited because of the network and, you know, my family well-meaning, all of that. Like, they wanted the best for me. But it kind of clipped my wings at the time, and it made me only see like a very narrow view of what I could be. And you know what? You need to widen your networks and widen your perspective so that you see the bigger horizon for all your fabulousness and possibilities.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you so much, Miss Hoey. I mean, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I cannot wait once again for your new book to release and everything else that you're doing. Truly, it has been an honor.
All mine. The honor is all mine. Thank you.
Absolutely. We will talk to you later. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. You have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm blown away. I'm blown away. It's a nice, sunny, beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Just having a great conversation, learning, networking with someone who is greater and wiser than me. That's what it's about. As Miss Kelly said, networking is relationships. It is the things that we do every day, the conversations we have, the interactions we have. And truly, that is what we're doing, even right now, for an example. Having this conversation, learning from her, like the story that she said about Joe when she was observing how he watched his peers work. We are seeing how she does what she does. And it means so much to be able to do this. I hope that you guys are enjoying. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to drop a like, comment, and share. Also, be sure to follow us on all social media at Defiant Ones Mag and subscribe to the Defiant Ones Teen podcast so you never miss an episode on all podcast platforms at the Defiant Ones Teen podcast. Again, that's Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and literally every podcast platform, which is a serious blessing to be able to do at just 17 years old, guys, even though I feel kind of, Actually, I'll be 18 in a month, guys. May 7th. May 7th, it is going down. I want all the birthday cake. Grab me the drinks, non-alcoholic. I want the Capri Suns, the good stuff. Wink. All the good stuff. Look, it's going down. The only thing I need left is a car. So I can get around and start networking with other people who are like-minded and doing the same thing as we're doing, so we can continue to grow and thrive and be better. I hope that you guys once again enjoyed and you learned something. I know that I most definitely have. And it's interesting because my entire family is made up of entrepreneurs and my mom is a PR manager. So the whole networking thing, it goes around. And, one day I want to be able to not pass, but be on the same level or above her capabilities, be able to be above my capabilities right now, right? Because it's about actually growing when you learn. It's about creating those relationships when you network with others. So be sure to network with us. Once again, you can follow us on all social media at Defiant Ones Mag. If I spell that out, I most likely will misspell it. So let me say it slow. That's at Defiant Ones Mag on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me, Christian Kindafy Robinson, on all social media as well at Kindafy. That's Kindafye. The only thing I will not misspell. And you can also check out our website to learn more about us, learn about our team, subscribe to the Defiant Ones Teen podcast. If you would like to purchase your physical or online copy of the Defiant Ones Teen magazine, all of that is available and possible on our website, defiantonesmag.com. Also, if you would like if you have a story or if you think that someone else should submit to become a feature in our podcast or magazine, please be sure to also go to our website and check that out if you want to become an advertiser or a sponsor. Once again, all of that is possible at defiantonesmag.com. Guys, I'm about to chill out. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I want to definitely get a head start on this. Actually, right after this, I'm going to go send out a bunch of emails and fix my key at the bottom. All these great things. I'm excited. I'm going to go after it. But I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. And we will be back once again on Friday. So be sure to check out our social media at Defiant Ones Mag for that information. Guys, have it great. Take it easy.